Good evening. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I would invite everybody to join Council in O Canada. Please rise. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The town of Oakville is located on treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We thank the Mississaugas for being stewards of the traditional territory. By 1820, the Mississaugas began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, Oakville was welcoming Black people fleeing the United States. Our Indigenous, white, and Black residents created a community of harmony that makes us proud. By 1857, Ontario recognized Ontario as a town. At Town Hall, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas with the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada to acknowledge our origins. The vibrant livability we are creating for all attracts people from across Canada and the world. We feel sorrow for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for all. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite us. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on Council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. Please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Madam Clerk, I think first we'll get the regrets. Who has sent us regrets for this meeting?
Councillors Longo and O'Meara.
Thank you. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, there are none. Council, we have the minutes of the previous council meeting and the minutes of the Budget Committee and the minutes of the Advisory Committee, of the Accessibility Advisory Committee for your approval. Councillor Lischina and Councillor Xie are moving and seconding all three. Any objection? There being none, that's carried. Council, we have 5 consent items. How do you wish to dispose of the consent items? Councillor Duddick is moving them. Councillor Heslett-Deal, are you seconding?
Mayor Burton, I'd like to pull out 9.4, the traffic bylaw update, for a question.
Thank you. Will you second them all?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I will call the balance, 9, 1, 2, 3, and 5. Any objection? There being none, they are carried. Councillor Heslett-Deal, your question.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. A question in regards to first truck permissions. So the change allows for the director to have the authority to shift truck routes. I believe the word is temporarily. And I wondered what notification would be provided to neighboring residents and councillors, given that we have some provisions that restrict trucks after 11 p.m. and before, I believe it's 7 a.m.
Sorry. Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Haslatil, we will provide notification to the councillors as we do during the construction times. We provide notification about the detour routes. So yes, we will provide the information.
So is there an anticipated length of time that a truck route may have a temporary position? I mean, I understand sort of very short-term, 2-4 possible weeks, but is it possible it could be longer than that? And again, I have residents that back onto a road where if it became a longer period of time, it would affect their quality of life.
I can.
Through the mayor, Mr. Mayor, and to the councillor. So with respect to notification, yes, as Imran has mentioned that we will be providing notification. With respect to the length of time, the purpose of the provision allows for emergency detours, so they are intended to be short length and detours and in emergency situations. So any other detours would be provided through our normal notification procedures.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And I'm not sure if it fits here, but my question is about commercial vehicles and non-commercial vehicles and commercial spots. Is that covered under this section of the traffic bylaw?
Through Mr. Mayor, with respect to parking?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Haslatil, we have updated the map of the parking areas for the commercial vehicles. So commercial vehicles are allowed only on those areas.
So my question is, there are businesses that have deliveries that are made in non-commercial vehicles that want to use the commercial loading zones. What bylaw would cover that, and how? I just want to make sure that that's on the table for people to, because it is becoming more and more a common practice that they're getting an SUV to bring product to the store, want to be able to use the commercial loading zone, but in fact get ticketed.
Yes, technically they can use the commercial loading zones because commercial loading zones are intended for deliveries. But if regarding ticketing, I can refer to our enforcement colleagues if they can answer that question. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We may also consider provisions under the parking meter bylaw. If you will note, under that bylaw, there was an amendment to remove a previous permit that had been issued for commercial vehicles, but that was specifically for commercial vehicles defined as commercial vehicles. This request is specifically relevant to passenger vehicles that are used for deliveries to commercial businesses. And as such, we can consider that under as a special permit. So we can take that away and look at that as a specialized program.
Okay. Thanks very much, Margaret.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nando.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Sorry, I apologize. I actually had a couple of questions on 9.5. I forgot to ask to separate them quickly.
Thank you, Councillor. Before we turn to that, I'll call the vote on 9.4. Any objection? There being none, that is adopted as presented. Councillor Nando, your questions about 9.5.
Just quickly, I wanted to ask about, so are we looking to restrict to only 2 sports?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're permitting the 2 sports that are identified in the report. Sorry. Sorry, was the question whether we're restricting?
Yeah, it said in the report there were 2 sports, hockey and basketball. Are we restricting to those 2 sports on street?
That's correct.
So how would we enforce, like if someone started kicking a soccer ball there, or someone's playing volleyball on the street?
I think I'll refer this to our enforcement staff in terms of how enforcement would take place.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to enforcement of the playing of sports, we would take an approach that was more informative and educational. And if there was to be an escalation, we may enlist the services of our partners at HRP. However, the primary focus would be on education.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we can just restrict it to only two sports. Do we have the ability to even enforce if others are playing a different type of sport on the streets?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Staff went through an extensive process in terms of consulting with the public in terms of which sport would general public see as a good sport to play on the street. We certainly recognize in the previous report we have taken that it is difficult to enforce. Enforcement of playing on the street is always difficult. As we mentioned earlier, if there was a complaint about certain sports, if the MES officers in the area, they may catch it. Sometimes when they come back, they may not even be there. So often we don't take a proactive enforcement approach, but more of an education. If we went out there and if the particular equipment is on the road, we will ensure that they're removed. That's the enforcement, but not for the playing. I recognize what you're hearing is why not all sport versus the two. Most of the common sports is the two, and so we're starting with that too, and we'll see how the public go for it. And that's also how most of the reactions from the surveys come back with these are the two most common sports that's accepted.
I just want to ensure that if we do put this into the bylaw, that we're not gonna have other issues now because now someone's complaining that someone's playing a different sport. I'm not sure. Is this something that we need to specifically put into the bylaw?
Thank you for that question, through you, Your Worship. So with the respect to playing other sports, it would really depend, again, whether or not they're interfering with the use of the road, that sort of thing. So if we found that there was an issue, then certainly we could provide education. But as Commissioner Fu has noted, we really did want to start this with the most predominant sports, the ones that were of most concern to most residents. So that's really our starting point. And we'll deal with any other sports and certainly report our findings to traffic and engineering as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question was just the restriction of the time, which says 8 p.m. between May and October. I think that's going to be very difficult in the summer months to have kids stop playing at 8 p.m. when it's still going to be bright outside.
Through you, Your Worship, we did consider the time of day as far as, evening hours, that sort of thing. And much of the information that came back really was that 8 p.m. was an acceptable time limit. It was usually the time kids came in and started getting ready for bed. So you're certainly right. It's summer months, the sun sets later. We're likely going to have kids playing on street up to, I would say, probably 9 p.m. There will be obviously an education component that comes with this, as well as the use of officer discretion. If there's light out, it's not dark, it's not a safety risk, we'll certainly use our discretionary abilities.
Okay, I just want to get a couple of things clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, through you, thank you very much, and thank you to staff for bringing this report forward. I think there's been a little misconception of what we're doing here as being the hammer for our kids. Can staff just explain where it will be allowed to have, road hockey on the street and where it won't be allowed? Because I think that'll put a lot of people at ease. Somehow I think it got misinterpreted that all of a sudden we're the people that are going to put the hammer down and kids can't play on a street in a cul-de-sac or whatever. So could you please, if staff could just take a few minutes to explain where it will be allowed, I think that would help. And I agree that I think the 8 o'clock this time of year may be a little bit tough to enforce it. But I realized our officers will give discretion. So I guess I'm okay with that for now. But I think 9 o'clock, during the real tight summer months when everybody's on vacation, might have been better. But I get it because you're trying to do it over a 6 month period. So anyhow, maybe if staff, I wouldn't mind a little bit of presentation about where it would be allowed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of the regulations that have been set for this report, we're looking at where on town roads that the sports can take place. So we have identified that the local roads are the areas that will be allowed, except for where there will be a transit route.
I thank you for that. I think when people didn't understand what a local road was varies from a bus route. So I think staff did an excellent job of saying bus route. So if you have a bus route, then you really shouldn't play on that street. So thank you for that report.
All right, thank you, everybody. We now come to the confidential consent item 10.1, the municipal access agreement, Telmax. And I believe we could entertain a motion in public unless somebody wants to go into camera for more legal advice. So I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Knoll, and a second, Councillor Chisholm. And Councillor Elgar, have you got your hand up to speak to this? All righty.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll call the vote. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there being none, that is adopted as presented. Next, 11.1, establishment of a lobbyist and gift registry. This is moved by Councillor Dudek and seconded by Councillor Elgar, and the floor goes to Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, there has been revisions. I understand members of council have all received them. Thank you very much to Councillor Adams, who assisted in putting forward some really good suggestions, as did Councillor Haslett-Thiel. This goes back to, at the region, I believe at the time it was Councillor Alan Johnston who tried to introduce something of a similar nature. Councillor Knoll, Mayor Burton, myself, Councillor Adams and Elgar, we all voted in favor of it. Unfortunately, it did not pass. I think given the need for increased transparency for members of the public, I think it's an important thing to do. I've talked to Burlington councillors. They have one as well, even though that wasn't indicated in the report. So I think anything we can do to provide transparency to members of the public and all different aspects of business here at Town Hall, which I again thank Councillor Adams for raising that. I think it's a great start, and I do note that there's a change in the return time from 120 to 180 days, which I believe CAO Closey had said it's more realistic for the staff load. And this is just to bring back a draft that we can look at, and they'll glean, I believe, the best of the working lobbyist reviews, or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar?
I fully support the amendments made by Councillor Adams also, and I'm glad he did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Shall I put the vote? You can always ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you.
Even after we already voted another way. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councillor McNeese.
Yes.
Councillor Dudek.
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm.
Yes.
Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Yes.
Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Councillor Knoll.
Yes.
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Lischina.
Yes.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
Councillor Shia.
Yes.
And that carries it.
Thank you, everybody. 11.2 is for our attention next, and this is the Munns Creek encroachments. We have several delegations wishing to delegate, and we have an alternative motion put forward by Councillor Knoll and Councillor Grant, and I had it here a second ago. Do you have it handy, Madam Clerk?
I can share it if you like.
I just want to share it with the public
Yes.
so that they know what the councilors are thinking. Do you want to read it?
I'm just going to offer that.
That's all we need.
Thank you, Worship. I'll read the motion that we're proposing at the conclusion of the delegations and staff report. That staff pursue the sale of all or a portion of the encroached lands along Munns Creek with the encroaching owners from 1528 to 1510 Elm Road at fair market value and return to council with a public report that sets out the reasons why these lands may be considered surplus to the needs of the town in compliance with bylaw 2010-104. And this motion is courtesy of the staff who helped us develop this to be in compliance with our own internal bylaws.
Councillor Knoll and Councillor Grant, thank you for that. Madam Clerk, would you call the delegations?
George Chalich.
Mr. Chalich, welcome. Council looks forward to your information. There's a button on your left under the lip of the table. So to your left, there's a way to raise the table. We had this motor put in for people who are tall.
Appreciate that. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Burton, councilors, Madam Clerk, for the opportunity to speak before all of you today. You have here some proud homeowners of along Elm Road. You know, for many of us, it was a big goal and great desire of ours to make Oakville home for our families, and we've truly come to feel strongly connected and immersed within this town and our proud citizens. I want to briefly acknowledge and the very collaborative, proactive, and engaged discourse we've had on this topic over the last few years with the Parks and Open Space team, Chris Mark and Oliver Haig, and the representation of our Ward 5 councillors, Councillor Knoll and Councillor Grant. It's been, a very respectful, thoughtful dialogue, and we've always felt as though our interests and perspectives were being heard and considered. Next slide, please. So I want to paint a bit of a picture. Imagine it's the spring of 1972. You and your partner discovered a house on a beautiful ravine lot. You fell in love with it. You took all your savings, paid a premium for the backyard to call it home. You've been taking great care of this land for 50 years. Your kids and grandkids have grown up with this space, and then you learn 50 years later that the fence line and what you thought was your home will be taken away from you. So this is not a story, but a reality that some folks on the street have faced, and provides the context for why we're strongly advocating here today. Next slide, please. So really, we have two kind of intentions here. It's our proposal and recommendation to council that the fence lines remain in place and achieve mutually beneficial solutions, which we'll highlight, and that balance the needs of the residents whilst achieving the goals of the Munns Creek Rehabilitation Project. Next slide, please. There are 6 primary reasons supporting our recommendation. We'll go through each in turn in the subsequent slides. I won't spend any longer on this section. Next slide, please. So starting with precedent. Really here, there's 53 years of actual, continuous, unchallenged possession of this land. As one of our dear neighbors, who's an original homeowner from the early 70s can attest, the existing fence lines are where they've always been, and residents have lived with this fenced-in land with no interruptions for over 5 decades now. Homeowners along Elm Road purchased these homes with the fence lines already in place. No homeowner was aware of any encroachment, nor the fence backyard does not represent their true property lines until Parks and Open Space had raised this concern with us a few years ago. The area has become a beautiful naturalized environment where wildlife has thrived, and native planting has flourished with fence lines in existing form. Homeowners have taken great care of this land and it's become an inseparable part of their homes. And homeowners have spent their life savings, paid a considerable premium given the depth of these lots and private backyard space with mature foliage, natural environment, and the privacy being highly valued by the homeowners on both sides of the creek. Given the rear section has never been used as a public passway, and per confirmation from the Parks and Open Space team, there was not an intention to create a public passway here. Needless to say, strong emotional attachment with years of memories tied to this space. Next slide, please. On a few occasions, both the residents and Parks and Open Space engaged Conservation Halton, and on both instances, Conservation Halton gave a green light that there was no concerns with maintaining the existing fence lines in their current form per their legislation. This is taken from an environmental health, sustainability, and floodplain perspective, and we do have some tangible evidence that lends further validity to these conclusions. Next slide, please. So even with the record rainfall that we experienced in late summer of 2024, which flooded Oakville parks and the golf course, minimal flood risk was observed along Munns Creek, supporting the feedback that we received. As you can see in the photo there, the water level stayed well behind where the existing fence line is. Next slide, please. So both homes along Pembroke Drive and Elm Road back onto Munns Creek. As part of the Munns rehabilitation scope, there was already some work undertaken and completed over the last few years. Some of the work affected the homes nearest Upper Middle Road on the Pembroke Drive side, which experienced some modest right setting of their fence lines, approximately 3 feet to a new location. It's important to note that the existing Pembroke Drive side fences are much closer to the creek bank than the contemplated changes for the Elm side, which reflects an outsized adjustment of approximately 20 to 35 feet, depending on the home along our street. As evidenced by multiple site visits and rehabilitation work having been completed over the last few years along the creek, at the Elm side with existing fences in place. All this work was carried out successfully without the need to reset the existing fence lines along our homes. For some additional context, and this is anecdotal, but it was communicated to us and alleged by a longstanding homeowner on the Pembroke Drive side that at the time of the fence bylaw implementation, Pembroke Drive side homes were allowed to be grandfathered in and allowed to retain land at the rear without having to move the property lines back. In this case, because of the build date of the Elm Road side, which was the early 70s, we would not have benefited from that treatment. So this was shared to us by a resident. I just wanted to provide that additional context. Next slide, please. So Elm Road residents have unequivocally been supportive, continue to be respectful stewards of the environment, and we truly do appreciate the work that Parks and Open Space does to care for our parkland. Rehabilitation of Munns Creek, however, we believe is not dependent on resetting of the fence lines. Specific concerns raised by Parks and Open Space can be resolved under the residents' proposal. So one of the concerns was safety and accessibility for emergency services. Again, as evidenced by some of the recent work completed, fence lines do not need to be reset to facilitate access. Conservation Halton, the aforementioned feedback that we received from them supports not needing to reset the fence lines. The removal of dangerous trees and invasive species. So again, certain select trees have been cleared in recent years without the need to reset the fence lines. Residents are open to allow use of the rear lot to enable access for any future purpose of rehabilitation work as required over time. And then finally, the setting precedents throughout the town, town decisions are made with consideration of specific background, history, unique circumstances of each topic to achieve an optimal decision. Residents have been highly open-minded, collaborative, and proactive in proposing solutions that mitigate concerns and optimize around the needs of Elm Road homeowners and achieve the goals of Parks and Open Space. Next slide, please. So not resetting the fence lines and pursuing this results in a significant cost savings for the town of Oakville. Replacement of the existing fence lines along the homes has been quoted at approximately $200,000 just for resetting the fence lines alone, which can be deployed to other higher impact areas in the town to other residents. One of our proposed solutions, which is to acquire the existing land, generates a revenue for the town, both outright and over time, while still enabling rehabilitation work to be completed. Next slide, please. So the topography of the land features a steep downward slope and narrow creek bank. It is functionally not safe to be used as a publicly accessible land area. Therefore, it does not provide value to the town and public, even if the land is removed from homeowners. It has always been a naturalized habitat and home for animals and planting. Clearing walkway will further reduce the natural space that animals and nature species rely on. Parks and Open Space has confirmed to residents and the ward councilors on multiple touch points that the land will not be used as a public access way. Homeowners on both Pembroke and Elmside highly value the privacy and the beauty of the foliage and are strongly against creating a public access way in any form. This means the address remarks in the Parks and Open Space report regarding hindering of or blocking the use of public lands for Oakville residents it does not quite reconcile with the scope of the Munns Creek Rehabilitation Project and the intention of the work communicated. Removing encroachments and pushing back fence lines will effectively create a walkway alongside the creek. This will invite bypassers, hikers. This is an increased level of activities will induce threat to the natural habitat, the public safety, and easier access of the back of the properties will increase higher criminal risk as well. Pushing back the fence line as contemplated will negatively impact the safety, functionality, and usability of the property.
Sir?
Yes.
You've run out of time.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How many more slides do you have?
Just one.
Are you going to read the whole thing to us?
No, I won't. Yeah, I'll keep it.
Well, then I'll leave you with this question. Did you have a chance to consider the motion that the Ward 5 councillors are proposing on this matter?
Before today, no, but yes.
The one that
yes,
we
yes,
showed?
Yes.
And do you oppose it or support it?
Support it.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Councillor Adams.
Wrong thing. Thank you very much for the presentation. You had one more slide, and I would appreciate if it could be, the whole deck could be circulated to us right away. It would be very useful for our deliberations, I think.
We have the slides, so the clerk will distribute them immediately.
Thank you.
And Councillor Elgar has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor Burton. I'd just like to, the presenter talked about safety, and now, so it's okay, safe for his children to go back there, or somebody that isn't his property, but it's not safe for somebody to walk along that property? And if it does remain as town property, so people then could at least walk along the town property, along the sides of the creek, is that correct?
Yes, the area is currently effectively a naturalized environment that's continuous with the property of each homeowner. As we saw last summer with the water level rising, it did not extend into the backyard space. However, if that were to become a natural walkway, we believe that could introduce heightened risk around that in extreme weather events. We do also believe that given that area has, historically for 5 decades now been a private area, we homeowners experience this daily, but it is a naturalized environment for the habitat and species in that space as well. And given it hasn't been a public access way to date, homeowners, acquired these properties predicated, on them being kind of private backyard spaces, and there would be naturally kind of heightened risks with now that becoming a public access way.
Okay. So no one knew that they didn't, people buy property, normally they know the corners of their property. So you're saying nobody knew when they bought the property that they didn't own the property? I'm just trying to understand how we got into this mess.
Right. Personally, no, I was not aware of that.
So when you bought your property, there was no survey given? Like your lawyer didn't give you a survey?
No, we did not have one.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess, wow. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk, I think unless you, oh, sorry. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you. Through you to the delegation, did the town erect the fence or did the individual homeowners erect the fence?
I don't have that context.
Okay, maybe some of the ones who've been there longer might be able to answer that. To my understanding, it's not a town-owned fence. Then that means the homeowner erected the fence, correct? Like I'm thinking it may have happened over time, but it wasn't the town who erected the fence.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. So my understanding is, the fences have been in place for the entirety of that time. As to who erected them, I don't have that context.
Okay. The other concern I have, do you have a letter from Conservation Halton endorsing this?
I don't personally. The correspondence was with Parks and Open Space.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is the way it was portrayed gave a green light as opposed to not expressing concerns. So
Right.
I think that sort of sends a mixed message,
Understood.
Several of us serve on Halton Conservation, so it would have given me concern.
Understood.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Madam
Yeah.
Clerk, the next delegation.
Conrad Kopaz.
Welcome, sir. Council looks forward to your information, and the same button that raised the table will lower it for you.
That's easier.
That's
Can
easier.
you get that last slide though? And then the next slide. So thank you for giving us time, Honorable Mr. Burden, or Mayor Burden, councilors. So just to answer some of the questions first. So when we were in having those conversations with Open Parks, what they mentioned to us, so they never gave us a report. So what they mentioned to us is like, they came back and they said, oh, they don't mind if there is a structure on there. Like it was kind of like, it wasn't a definitive, but it was very like, oh, they came back and there wasn't a hard line like there normally is. And councilors also mentioned that, well, that's unusual. Usually it is a very hard line. So the fact that there is some sort of flexibility in the way they conversed with Open Parks meant that there was some sort of opportunity for us. So that's, when it comes to, what's the name? A gentleman that's not here, but he asked a question about safety. So how I look at it is, if you move the fence, right now, no one's walking through it. We're kind of paying attention to it as a homeowner. But if you move the fence, and now people are kind of like, because there's no path, so people are just walking there freely, right? No one's paying attention to them. I had a tree just fall, I don't know, I would say a month ago. I cleaned it, it fell on on that side of the fence, and I cleaned it off. But like if it was a path, I would say there was no path, but people were walking there, who knows what could have happened, right? So I guess from a safety perspective, the fact that we're kind of more aware of our surroundings than some random person walking through when there's no path, maybe that's kind of like where the safety is. So this is kind of like what George, Yolanda, and the rest of the residents kind of came up with when speaking with councilors and Open Parks on the possibilities that could be presented to us, and I do second Jeff Knowles and Mark Grant's, wanting to purchase the land, so I'm all for that one. But there's that simple one where it's grandfathering in the current fence line. There was another question for you. It was homeowners that put it up. I wasn't around at that time. This was still 50 years ago, but it was homeowners. It's the grandfathering. Just keep it as is, less complex. There's no costs really involved so much. The land sale, slightly more. There's a little bit of cost. There has to be an assessment done, I guess, but every person that I've spoken to, everybody's really likes that idea because it also increases the value of the property because it's longer. So it is the value. So I'm definitely for that. There's an encroachment agreement, but as Open Park said, that is a renewable thing, so it is a little bit more of a hassle that you always have to renew it. And then the highest cost, which I think the city could save money without having to do this, is to reset the fence line. George mentioned $200,000. At least that's the number that was thrown around to us when they were kind of discussing this, give or take, right? But it is the highest cost for this for the town. And if the town's not going to be using it, it's kind of a waste of town's money, right? So I kind of just wanted to just highlight that last slide that George couldn't get to, and just answer some of the questions that I saw. So I'm done unless there's any questions.
Thank you very much for your information. You have generated questions. Councillor Chisholm and then Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Worship. Just for clarification, and maybe I have to direct this to staff, the benefit of five generations, they're talking about the amount of time they've had this land or annexed the town property for their personal use. With respect to MPAC, has there been a financial benefit to the residents over the years because the assessment was based on the real property lines rather than the extended one? Has there been a benefit to the residents with respect to not paying the appropriate taxes for that property?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Chisholm, and through you, Mayor Burton. If the surveys of the properties show the property lines where the town owns the back portion of the properties, the taxpayers or residents would not be billed for taxation for that portion of the land, so they would have had paid less taxes over the years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. Sorry, I missed what address you represent.
1524 Elm Road.
1524, okay, thanks. And have you or any of your neighbors discussed what you think the value of the encroached land is?
Personally, we haven't discussed because it's hard to quantify. Open Parks with Councillors Knoll and Grant discussed what it could hypothetically be. The actual land itself doesn't cost that much money, supposedly, maybe like $1,000, but it's the illegal of maybe like 7,000. These are the numbers that were kind of like generic because they were supposed to be some sort of assessment done in order to get a true cost. But these are the kind of numbers that were kind of hypothetically discussed in our open meetings, because again, we were just trying to find a solution, what maybe costs. So again, don't take that with a grain of salt, what that number is, but it was discussed somewhere around like $8,000 with legals. That's the rough cost that were kind of thrown around.
Thank you for your input.
First of all, thank you for coming out, and I can empathize. Everybody loves to be able to have a green space behind them. though several times the words have been used about inferring it is your land, and the reality is, at this point, it is not. Could you just clarify, when you bought the property, did you have a survey done?
Yeah, I do have a survey.
So, and how long ago did you buy the property?
10 years ago.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Matthew Gamble.
Welcome, sir. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Matthew Gamble, and I'm the homeowner at 1508 Elm Road. I want to begin by expressing my appreciation for the town staff throughout this process. Their engagement has been great, and they've been amazing at keeping the homeowners informed throughout the process. I want to express my full support for the recommendation the town enter into discussions with me to explore the fair market purchase of land behind my home, as it's the one that has the retaining wall that needs to be maintained, and we need the land behind in order to maintain that retaining wall. I believe this is a reasonable and pragmatic solution that takes into account the long-standing nature of the situation, and I welcome the opportunity to work with the town to resolve it. I also fully support the amendment brought forward tonight by our two councilors to have everyone treated in the same manner that I am, that an agreement be entered with everyone. And in the interest of time and respecting council, I agree with everything my neighbors have said, and I conclude my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your model presentation. Councillor Giddings has something for you.
Thanks for coming out. 1508, that, you've got a pool in the back?
Yes, we do.
That's the one?
Yes.
How long's the pool, or when was the pool installed?
I don't know. We bought it 2 years ago. So it was the pool was there when we bought the home.
All right, so likely done without benefit of a permit by the sounds of it.
The pool?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I know that it's the retaining pool. The retaining wall is the reason why we need the land behind. So we have a pool, then space, then a retaining wall that is a sharp drop off to the creek.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, any other delegations?
That's all the registered delegates right now.
Oh, Councillor Chisholm. I can hardly, your tan is so dark.
I'm in black and white. Okay, that's not colored. Anyways, my question is this: the retaining wall, was the retaining wall provided by the homeowner? Did they build up the retaining wall?
Councillor is on his way back.
Oh, thank you.
I believe so. In our discussion with the previous owner, it was built at some point there, but I'm not sure when, but it was maintained by the homeowners previous to us.
Okay, again, to staff, I'll redirect a question to staff. That retaining wall, was it analyzed with respect to the engineering of that wall, that it will be strong enough or maintained over the years?
Through you, Mayor Burton, to Councillor Chisholm. The engineer that we retained to have a look at all the properties along Elm Road that we're talking about this evening did inspect the wall. He did not give any indication of performance of the wall or life cycle of the wall. He did indicate, though, that if the wall is removed, then certainly this gentleman's backyard there was safety issues, functionality issues with the yard, and it was recommended that wall stay in place as it is today.
And my follow-up question to Chris, with respect to the wall, say it starts to crumble within 2 or 3 years, is it then the responsibility of the town to rebuild that wall?
That would be a legal question, Councillor, that I would seek legal advice on. I would ask maybe Mr. Carr to offer a comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be one of the items of negotiation between staff and the homeowner should council so direct.
Thank you.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming back up.
No problem.
So you purchased it just a few years ago, and did you receive a survey as part of that package?
We did, and we knew that the land on the other side of the retaining wall was not ours.
All right. Things have changed since I bought and sold houses. Did you get title insurance on the property?
Yes.
So likely that would, title insurance would look after anything that needs to be done with the retaining wall or proximity to the property line?
Yeah, the retaining wall is on our side of the property line. So the property line is exactly as with the retaining wall. The property line is exactly where it ends.
So it may well be covered by title insurance?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Knoll.
My hand was up for staff when we're done with the delegation, sorry.
Councillor Elgar.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Mayor Burton, at the appropriate time, I'd like to go into closed session regarding the confidential report we have before us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, first of all, to the residents who came out and delegated tonight, and thank you to everybody for their cooperation as we've worked through this process. I want to echo the comments of the residents, the staff. Oliver and Chris have been fantastic and communicative and very helpful in going through this process. A couple quick questions, probably for Mr. Mark. I just want to get some clarity on the Conservation Halton comment. Could we start out with that? You heard it referenced tonight. We did talk about it during our meetings, and can you please provide some clarity on what that means?
Through you, Mayor Burton, to Councillor Knoll, I did have a conversation with Conservation Halton, indicated the fences that were in place down pretty much to the edge of the creek, and as well as giving an indication of the encroachments that are there, such as sheds, a trampoline, gardens, and things like that. The response I got back was, as long as the channel was not being blocked, they were fine with it. They felt the flow would not be impeded by these fences. They indicated that the buildings, the sheds, are non-habitable, so they didn't have much concern regarding the encroachments. They would not provide me any kind of a letter to say that the encroachments needed to be removed. So,
What about floodplain? Was there any concerns related to that in terms of potential flooding possibilities on those lands?
they did not indicate that to me.
Okay. There was another comment tonight that stated that the town has no intention to create public access to this space. Is that an accurate representation?
It would be very difficult to get a pathway in there, one, to get approval, to get that pathway in there today, because we would be very, very close to the creek. And as well, as much as the residents are saying that they have not seen high flood waters, I'd be a bit hesitant to put a pathway that close to the creek for public safety.
Sorry. You're done?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So notwithstanding the fact that you probably couldn't get approval, are you suggesting it wouldn't necessarily be in the Parks and Open Spaces desire to actually provide public access through there?
I would say that
technically they have public access.
Technically there is public access. I think it was Councillor Elgar mentioned that if the fences were gone, the public could certainly walk and stroll along the public property from end to end. I would not say here tonight never did we ever want to put a public pathway through there. We do try and provide as much recreation and trail opportunity that we do have on our lands. But at this point in time, if you ask me this evening, we would have nothing in the forecast to put a pathway there if the decision tonight was to remove the encroachments.
Okay, can we take a moment and move a couple hundred feet to the west and talk a little bit about Pembroke? We heard, I know there was some confusion about how that whole process worked over there. Could you give us a bit of an overview on the Pembroke situation?
So on the Pembroke side, there was at least two homeowners who actually owned almost right to the creek. That's why those fences were so close to the creek. Those fences needed to be moved back, I think at least 1 meter to 2 meters back through the erosion mitigation work that's been done. I'm not responsible for that work that's being done by our transportation and engineering group. However, I do know that on the drawings that I've seen for the future work, if it was to go forward, the grading and the work within the Munns Creek channel there was taking it almost up to the property line of the backyards. My inclination there is that there's very limited public land on the Pembroke side, but there is quite a bit, about 25 to 30 feet on the Elm Road side. Hence, the encroachments were and are an impediment to doing that work. So I think that's one of the reasons that there's very little, I would say, impingement on the Pembroke side, is because we don't own that land, nor did the town have an interest in, I guess, in purchasing it for the work, because we had 25 to 30 feet on the Elm Road side.
Okay, my next question, I know I'm probably going to get the hook in a second because thank you. In terms of your ability to do our work there, if should the motion, the alternative motion that Councillor Grant and I put forward come to pass and the property owners actually buy the land, is there any impediment to the department's ability to be able to service the creek and to continue the erosion work, et cetera?
Certainly, if that motion was successful, we would want to move the fences at least a couple of meters back from where they are today. We do need public access to go down there to inspect the creek and things like that. So right now, having been there myself, in some cases there's less than a foot between the fence and the wall of the creek. So we would definitely need some room, and I would rely on my colleagues in environmental planning or transportation who do this work all the time to say what that setback should be.
Yeah, and hence the nature of the motion, there would be potentially subject to a negotiation to figure out the cost and what would actually look like. Just want to cover all my notes. The question came up earlier, who built the fence? And I think one of the delegates had confirmed that, but I don't think the delegate lived there at the time. Do you have a definitive answer on that?
I don't. I just have comments from one resident. There's a number of different dates that people have moved in and out of the properties. There is one resident who's been there since 1972, who I think has given most of the information. But a lot of these residents are 2015, 2022, 2024. I think there's one 1997. So a lot of them moving in and out on the fences, I assume have been there, but I can't say categorically. I'm just going on what I've been told by a longstanding resident.
Okay. My last question for the moment is, with respect to precedent, first of all, has there been a circumstance like this happen in town before? And if so, how is it treated? And are there other precedents that are similar to this that have been established or not established by denial? It's a lot in one question, I'm sorry.
Over my career here at the town, we have rarely, if ever, sold public land. There is one area where we did sell off a hydro corridor that was owned by, I believe, Oakville Hydro, down in the southeast part of town, Aspen Forest, actually. And we did offer, I think, about up to 40 to 60 feet to the residents by a motion of council that they could purchase an additional rear portion. Some did, some didn't. As of today, we have a fence line that goes in and out on a number of occasions. So that's the only one that I'm aware of. We have lots of indications that we have refused people's request for buying parkland. Our realty services section gets calls at least every month of people who would like to purchase some parkland.
Right. Would those be apples to apples comparisons in terms of those other requests? I guess the part of my question was, I probably didn't articulate it well. Is this request unique? And if so, is this request unique? And if not, have we denied similar requests?
It is a unique request, and we have denied other people.
With the same circumstances?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got for the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Duddick.
Thank you. Through you to staff. At this point, and I'm glad he raised, Councillor Knoll raised others being denied, because I've had some in my ward where they've been denied and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. We couldn't purchase, and staff would not even entertain the ability to purchase. Are you still of the mindset at this point, and it's not to disagree with the councillor's motion, but you're still of the mindset that's outlined in the report that it's precedent setting, that we're doing something like this, where you've got so many homes, all the others were just one home, and we weren't allowed to do it?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I forgot about that one. That was, I think, behind Kinnock Arena, where we denied it.
Yeah.
I am still, as your Director of Parks, I'm still of the firm opinion that we should not be selling off town land for people who have just annexed it off. We obtained parkland for the entire community, and as this council knows, parkland is becoming more and more difficult to acquire it all the time. So I like to preserve what we have in perpetuity. So I would not be supportive of selling off any of this public land to the residents.
I do recall a while back, Donovan Bailey Way, I believe, there were quite a few gardens and that erected, and we did have to have those removed. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes. When it changed from the Riggs Road allowance, we did have to remove and work with a number of homeowners who did have encroachments out into that corridor, and today they're no longer there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. And just in terms of locations, I recall issues with encroachments on Morrison Creek, in the Falgarwood area, Joshua Creek, and I can't remember ever selling any land to any one of those property owners. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. And in terms of this location, it's not part of our package, but if the fence line was moved back to the actual property line, would that land get renaturalized and be then ultimately be part of the natural lands in that area? That would be for the time being, that would be the use of the lands?
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Adams, that's correct. There is a design through Aquifer Beach to do the Elm Road side, which would be regrading of the creek on that side, and it would be all renaturalized, yes.
So there would be the erosion mitigation work that would happen, and then once that was done, the ultimate finishing up of that would be naturalizing that land.
Correct.
So it would improve the natural function of that area.
It certainly would in the condition that it is today, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I too would like to go in camera at the appropriate time.
Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. In terms of the ability to, if the fence moves back to the appropriate property line, is there still an ability for individuals who currently own the abutting land to walk, to potentially play behind what would now be a town fence?
Certainly, yes, that area would be open to the public, to those residents, just as it would be for other residents. However, we would deny access to a gate in the town fence if we put the fence along the rear property line.
So is there an opportunity to discuss that as an option with a gate?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I would say that is incredibly precedent setting as well.
Okay. I thought I'd just double check what options were a
We remove many
possibility.
gates year round.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll, are we ready to go into camera, or do you have something else for in public?
I have a question of clarification and one more question in public, please.
Okay.
Okay. The question of clarification is, the alternative motion is the sale of the property. Going back to your opinion that you just expressed, that you, as the Parks Director, you would like to or maintain that land, and that's in your mandate. Do you feel any less? Cleave to the notion of potentially an encroachment agreement, so that these individuals can continue to use the land on an annual renewable basis, subject to the needs of the town in the future, which is something that happens fairly commonly. I know we've approved several encroachment agreements on this council.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I still would not support encroachment agreements. Again, in my 30 years here, we have one encroachment agreement in parks, and that's to save a tree. All the others, I believe, are for road allowance. So I would not be, again, I think it's the thin edge of the wedge once you start allowing encroachment agreements to be put out there.
Okay, and the last point I wanted to, or the last thing I wanted to ask is, it came up from a question from Councillor Dudek about individual lots. When we talk about precedent, is there a precedent that speaks to an entire block as opposed to individual units? Maybe there is in Donovan Bailey Park, I don't know, but I just would like clarification on that. Because this isn't a one-off. This is an entire stretch of land that over 53 years has basically found its way into a private domain. Is there precedent that's similar to that you can draw on?
Not that I'm aware of. Most of them are individual or maybe 2 lots at the most.
And what would lead to those requests? Just a desire to have more land, or would there be something specifically, a corrective measure like this?
Usually corrective measure and also the desire to have more land. Depends on the homeowner who's purchased the home with it.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to go into camera now.
Well, we've got a lineup after you that wasn't there a second ago. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a follow-up for Director Mark. What would happen if, if it was purchased, there would obviously be a cost, and maybe nominal, but still, what happens if, say, one homeowner wants to purchase, but one doesn't, and sort of would obstruct, I think, any future uses? Just wondering what you thought about that.
Certainly, through your Mayor Burton, certainly that would make it more difficult to establish a fence line. It still could be done. I think it would make it much more difficult to do the erosion mitigation works that the town has got planned for the area, for the betterment of the creek. So that would be a concern of mine too, if there's only individuals and we get a zigzag effect, if you will, across that side of Munns Creek.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Council, I believe that I can accurately say that it's moved by Councillor Elgar that we repair into a session close to the public to consider this matter, because it can be considered in the absence of, and the justification for that is in the Municipal Act and our Procedure Act bylaw. This matter may be considered in the absence of the public under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act because it deals with a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And I believe that we may also want to cite, for the purpose of receiving advice from legal counsel and the communications necessary for providing that. And does anybody have any other thoughts for this motion? And if not, can I get a seconder? And the hands leaped up. Councillor Adams, any objection? There being no objection, the motion carries, and we are going to have a 5-minute recess while we clear the chamber. And Council, you're invited to take a brief break, get a refreshment, prepare for the rest of the meeting. All right, Council has met in a session closed to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Act that allow Council to meet in the absence of the public to consider a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, as well as for the purpose of receiving advice subject to privilege and the communications necessary for that. Councillor Knoll, your motion and Councillor Grant's, Councillor Knoll has moved and Councillor Grant has seconded a motion which we read earlier. Councillor Knoll, is there, as the mover, you have a right to speak.
Thank you, Worship. Colleagues, I just want to ask you to think about this for a moment. 53 years ago, these properties were constructed and purchased, and at some point along the way, for whatever reason, the property line was placed where it was, or not the property line, but the fence line, the demarcation line was put where it was. We don't really know who did it or why it was done, but it happened. So 53 years later, or 43 years later in some cases, people are buying this house maybe for the 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th time over those course of years, expecting that the property that they fell in love with, visited, probably came back and forth with 5 or 6 times with their family and such, was the property that they were purchasing. We all know that right now in the real estate world that it's all about quick transactions. I mean, lawyers don't get their due anymore because everybody wants the cheapest value on closing deals. So, there's these paper shops just close deals with title insurance or whatever. And nobody's really studying surveys. And we heard that today, that some members of the public who bought these homes didn't really understand what's on the survey. And frankly, unless you're a lawyer or a surveyor or somebody with some planning experience, do you really even understand the surveys? I mean, I have my survey for my property, my personal property, some of my business properties, and they're hard to understand. So I can understand that some of these residents probably, with great intentions, thought that was their property. I don't think anybody on Elm Street believed at any time that they were encroaching or squatting, I heard earlier, on their particular property. They truly thought this was their land. We've heard tonight from Mr. Mark. Thank you very much for your work, Mr. Mark, and your colleague, I can't remember Oliver's last name. Thank you for the fine work on this. But we heard tonight that there really is no risk to the work to be done, that the work can be done with the purchases if this was proved tonight. So there's no impact on the erosion mitigation or any of the works on the property. We also heard tonight that there's no intention of providing public access to that property. So the reality is that why would we be doing this? Well, we'd be doing this because we're concerned about setting a precedent. That's really what it boils down to. And I just want to remind everybody that, you know, it's important, you know, from a legal perspective that we pay attention to precedent, but we should also be paying attention to the expectations and the rights and the belief in our residents that, you know, they had peaceful and quiet enjoyment of their property over these years. And suddenly, for no reason other than the fact that there was some work being done, somebody came along and knocked on the door and said, you don't own the property you own. Now imagine how you'd feel with this situation. Let's think about that for a second. Especially, you've now probably been the 5th or 6th purchaser in this property over 53 years. So for a moment, please, suspend the idea that, you know, we're gonna create some sort of precedent, because there's already been precedents where we've done things before. We heard about one, we've heard about a couple that have happened. We've heard about many that didn't happen. But whether it's precedent or not, the reality is that precedent aren't people. These people live on the street. It's not one home, it's not two homes, it's a whole range of homes along this creek that believe that they own this land. Their kids played there, their grandkids played there, and, you know, they believe they have the rights to it. I don't think it's any great exposure to the town to negotiate a sale price on this property and allow these folks to be able to make what's wrong right, legally, financially, and allow them to enjoy for generations to come the property that they believed at all points in time was their property. So I'd ask for your support for our motion this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Very good timing. Councillor Grant?
Thank you. Everything that Councillor Knowles said, I would put a finer point on the fact that Conservation Halton, as we've heard, did say that there was no problem with them continuing to live on the land as they have. We've also heard from the residents that they are going to go forward, should we sell the land to them, to make sure that the town has access to the properties behind their homes. You know, it's not, I don't feel it's a precedent when you have a story of people who over the course of 53 years, through again, hands changing over and over again for these homes, to believe that this was their property. There is no precedent like this, I believe, in the town. And this is a very unique situation. And so with that, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Elgar?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, I would ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. That's a mighty short speech. Are there any other speakers? All right, then I will say a word. I wanted to support my colleagues in Ward 5 on this, and I've changed my mind. And the reason I've changed my mind is there's a case at the Supreme Court trying to decide whether or not municipal land can be adversely possessed. That is, the issue here is if you've had the land for 50 years and nobody said anything to take it away from you, it's yours, is the common law. And there's a case at the Supreme Court where the appeal court has decided in the favor of the City of Toronto that parkland is exempt from adverse possession. And so we all have an interest in seeing how that case turns out. And if the Supreme Court finds that parkland is subject to adverse possession, then the residents still have recourse if council maintains its longstanding position of increasing, not decreasing parkland. So for that reason, I will be opposing the motion from my colleagues in Ward 5. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councillor McNeese.
No.
Councillor Dudek.
No.
Councillor Chisholm.
No.
Councillor Haslett Thiel.
No.
Councillor Giddings.
No.
Councillor Elgar.
No.
Mayor Burton.
No.
Councillor Knoll.
Yes?
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
No.
Councillor Lischina.
No.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
Councillor Shia.
No.
And that fails.
Thank you, everybody. You have in your agenda the internal memos listed as staff memorandum in section 13. Is there any new business, Councillor
Sorry, Mayor
Adams?
Burton, we just have to vote on the original motion
Oh, I beg your pardon. You're right.
and also the confidential item.
You're right. Councillor Adams, are you moving the staff recommendation?
Yes, I'm moving the staff recommendation.
And I'm looking for a seconder. That would be Councillor Chisholm was first out of the gate. Any objection? There being two, it carries. The next vote is that staff be directed to report back to council with an update by the end of fourth quarter 2025 on the matter covered in the confidential Munns Creek report. I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Elgar, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that is carried. New business, any new business? No. Councillor McNeese.
Just wanted to offer a congratulatory note to staff and everyone involved on Bronny's Canada Day celebration. I know we had some first-time staff there kind of running the show, and it was just seamless as to how they took on such a major event, whether it was, and I've heard 15,000, I've heard 30,000, whatever it was, there was tens of thousands of people enjoying themselves there. And I even had compliments this year on the road closures and parking restrictions. Usually we don't get compliments like that, but people said, I had some people complain about it too, but we did have some compliments. People said it just flowed. They felt safe on the street as compared to some other times. And, you know, I observed afterwards, you know, within an hour, everybody was sort of out of there. I saw the transit buses coming in 4 or 5 at a time to get everybody back to the transit station. So, you know, I think this has become a real well-oiled machine. And some new features this year as well with kind of the Instagrammable moments. So on behalf of Councillor O'Meara and I, you know, who would otherwise be here, but he had an obligation tonight, I'd like to congratulate staff on their great work for that event. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Councillor McNeese. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. On the issue of Canada Day, I have a thank you and a congratulations to our volunteers and friends that attended the annual Canada Day Pancake Breakfast in Ward 5. I want to thank my cohort, Anita Anand, for co-sponsoring the event. This is, I think, our 7th or 8th year we've done this, and boy, oh boy, did we serve a lot of pancakes this year. We estimate approximately 700 to 800 people showed up for pancakes and some entertainment and live Canadian music. It was a great morning, a great way to start off the day. We pitched Councillor McNeese's community event all day long, so hopefully those folks out. I want to say a big thank you to Councillor Grant and Councillor Lischina, who flipped and or mixed pancakes all day. And I think that one story I just want to tell you is that years ago when we first started this, Councillor Lischina said to me, "I've never made a pancake in my life." And we taught her how to mix the batter and how to flip them. And now she is Dr. Pancake because she makes the best pancakes going. So thank you, everybody, for attending. We look forward to bringing the event back to you next year. And the mayor's left the chair. So I'm going to take a chance to sing a few songs while we wait. No? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor.
I was trying to fill in time for you, but
oh, you did very well.
I failed.
Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I would just like to extend congratulations to Matt Very, who is one of Oakville's own. He took on a coast-to-coast cycling challenge, 7,500 kilometers, in his retirement, I will say, to raise awareness for about type 1 diabetes and research funds. He raised $500,000 for type 1 diabetes. He made stops along the way, and his journey, if you Google Coast to Coast, Matt Very, it is incredibly inspiring. He courageously took on some really horrendous weather starting in May. He landed, cycled into Halifax on July the 2nd. He's done Oakville proud. He's made a huge difference for type 1 diabetes. And for the record, he has no family member attached to type 1 diabetes. He just cares deeply about the fact that those that struggle with type 1 diabetes struggle every day, and it's time to find a cure. So hats off to Matt Very.
Thank you, Councillor Hazeltine, and thank you to Matt. I have type 1 diabetes people in my circle, and I know exactly how horrible it is. And I also have type 2 diabetes people in my circle, and boy, are they ever working hard not to graduate to type 1. That's the end of new business as far as I'm aware. The next item is regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. Any? Councillor Knoll.
I just want to take a moment to suggest that members of council, you'll be getting it in the mail soon, but members of council can now read the Halton Regional Police Service Annual Report, which is an excellent read. Tons of information on what we've done over the last in 2024, as well as some anecdotal stories throughout Oakville and Halton. So go to haltonpolice.ca and have a look at our annual report for the Halton Regional Police Service for 2024.
Thank you, Councillor. I will point out for members of council who do not sit on regional council that the council meeting on this Wednesday morning is fairly significant considering setting budget directions and other matters that you may find of interest. And those are available online. I now think I could ask for a mover and seconder for the consideration of reading of the bylaws. Councillor Lischina and Councillor Giddings, thank you for that. Any objection? Councillor Adams?
I understood there might be a request for a report, no?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It didn't happen. But thank you for your help and encouragement. There being no objection, the bylaws are considered read and passed, as noted in the agenda. And that completes our work together tonight. And I've enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed working with you, and I look forward to the next time. We are done. Good night.